Hello and good day. For today, our topic is partnership operations. This is actually the second topic in accounting for special transactions, and at the same time, this is the second part of the accounting for partnerships. In partnership operations, the basic problem is how will the partners share in the profits and losses of the partnership. As a rule, profits and losses are to be allocated based on the partnership agreement. The prevailing factor in a given situation regarding division of profits and losses should be the partnership agreement, since this agreement is binding on the partners. Recall that a contract of partnership is a consensual contract, meaning to say, the contract of partnership is created by mere consent. The contract of partnership is perfected by mere consent. That is why in dividing the profits and losses of the partnership, ang priority ay partnership agreement. If no profit and loss sharing agreement is specified, partnership law states that the division of profits will be based on original capital contributions. Yung tinutukoy na original capital contributions dito ay yung initial investment ng partners. In the absence of original capital, beginning capital for the year may be used. If the agreement specifies how profits are to be distributed but is silent as to losses, losses are to be shared in the same manner as profits. Meaning to say, kung ang meron lang ay profit-sharing agreement pero walang loss-sharing agreement, mag-share ang partners sa losses in accordance with the profit-sharing agreement. In addition to profit or loss sharing, the partnership agreement may also stipulate any of the following. First, salaries. Normally, an industrial partner receives salary in addition to his share in the partnership's profits as compensation for his services to the partnership. Take note, a partner is entitled to salaries whether the partnership earns a profit or the partnership incurs a loss. Second, bonuses. The managing partner may be entitled to a bonus for excellent management performance. Unlike for salaries, a partner is entitled to a bonus only if the partnership earns profit. That means if the partnership incurs a loss, no bonus will be given to any partner. And third, interest on capital contributions. The partnership agreement may stipulate that capitalist partners are entitled to an annual interest on their capital contributions. Let us now apply the concepts. Problem number 1, division of profits and losses. A, B, and C's partnership agreement stipulates the following. Annual salaries of 12,000 pesos to A and 8,000 pesos to C. 10% bonus to A based on profit after salaries but before deducting the bonus. 10% interest on the following capital contributions: A, 100,000 pesos, B, 60,000 pesos, and C, 120,000 pesos. Profit or loss ratio of 40 to 30 to 30. Case 1, sufficient profit. The partnership earns profit of 100,000 pesos. Compute for the partners' respective shares. Case 2, insufficient profit. The partnership earns profit of 10,000 pesos. Compute for the partners' respective shares. And case 3, loss. The partnership incurs loss of 20,000 pesos. Compute for the partners' respective shares. Let's start with case 1, sufficient profit. The requirement is to compute for the partners' respective shares. And it says here in this case that the partnership earns profit of 100,000 pesos. Therefore, yung 100,000 pesos, yan yung i-allocate natin sa mga partners. The 100,000 pesos is the amount being allocated. Let's now do the allocation. Unahin natin yung salaries. Ang annual salary ni A ay 12,000 pesos at ang annual salary ni C ay 8,000 pesos. Therefore, yung 12,000 pesos mapupunta kay A at yung 8,000 pesos mapupunta kay C. All in all, that is equal to 20,000 pesos. Take note that the partners are entitled to salaries whether the partnership earns a profit or the partnership incurs a loss. Next, bonus. Sa bonus naman, the partners are entitled to bonus if and only if the partnership earns a profit. If the partnership incurs a loss, the partners are not entitled to any bonus. It says here in the problem that there is 10% bonus to A based on profit after salaries, but before deducting the bonus. Since may profit ang partnership dito sa case 1, entitled sa 10% bonus si A. Para makompute yung bonus ni A, kailangan muna nating i-compute yung profit after salaries. Ang profit after salaries ay 80,000 pesos. Paano nakuha yung 80,000 pesos? 100,000 pesos minus 20,000 pesos. That is equal to 80,000 pesos. Next, imumultiply natin yung 80,000 pesos sa 10%. 80,000 pesos times 10%, that is equal to 8,000 pesos. At yan yung mapupunta kay A. Next, interest on capital. There is a 10% interest on the capital contributions of each partner. At ang capital contribution ni A ay 100,000 pesos. Ang capital contribution ni B ay 60,000 pesos. At ang capital contribution ni C ay 120,000 pesos. For A, multiply natin yung 100,000 pesos sa 10%. For B, multiply natin yung 60,000 pesos sa 10%. At para kay C, multiply natin yung 120,000 pesos sa 10%. 100,000 pesos times 10%, that is equal to 10,000 pesos. 60,000 pesos times 10%, that is equal to 6,000 pesos. And for C, 120,000 pesos times 10%, that is equal to 12,000 pesos. All in all, that is equal to 28,000 pesos. Next, allocation of remainder. Ilan ang remainder? Ang remainder ay 44,000 pesos. Paano yan na-compute? 100,000 pesos na amount being allocated. Ibabawas yung 20,000 pesos. Ibabawas yung 8,000 pesos. at ibabawas yung 28,000 pesos. 100,000 pesos minus 20,000 pesos minus 8,000 pesos minus 28,000 pesos, that is equal to 44,000 pesos. At yung remainder na 44,000 pesos, yan yung i-allocate natin among the partners. I-allocate natin yung remainder na 44,000 pesos based on their profit or loss ratio. Ang profit or loss ratio ng mga partners ay 40 to 30 to 30. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, yung 40% mapupunta kay A, yung 30% mapupunta kay B, at yung 30% mapupunta kay C. 44,000 pesos times 40% is equal to 17,600 pesos. 44,000 pesos times 30%, that is equal to 13,200 pesos. And 44,000 pesos times 30%, that is equal to 13,200 pesos. Of course, all in all, 44,000 pesos yan kasi yan yung inallocate natin na remainder. Now, pwede na nating makompute yung respective shares ng mga partners. For A, 12,000 pesos plus 8,000 pesos plus 10,000 pesos plus 17,600 pesos. Ilan yan? 47,600 pesos. For B, 6,000 pesos plus 13,200. Ilan yan? 19,200 pesos. For C, 8,000 pesos plus 12,000 pesos plus 13,200, that is equal to 33,200 pesos. All in all, of course, dapat 100,000 pesos. Kasi yan yung inallocate natin na amount. Next, case 2, insufficient profit. The requirement is to compute for the partners' respective shares. But this time, the partnership earns profit of 10,000 pesos only. Yang 10,000 pesos, yan yung i-allocate natin among the partners. This is the amount being allocated. Let's now do the allocation. Let's start with salaries. Ang annual salaries ni A ay 12,000 pesos at ang annual salary ni C ay 8,000 pesos. All in all, 20,000 pesos. Next, bonus. In this case, the bonus is not applicable. Why? Kasi kung ibabawas natin yung 20,000 pesos sa 10,000 pesos, ang result ay negative 10,000 pesos. Recall that the partners are not entitled to bonus if the partnership incurs a loss. Next, interest on capital. For A, imumultiply natin yung 100,000 pesos sa 10%. For B, imumultiply natin yung 60,000 pesos sa 10%. At para kay C, imumultiply natin yung 120,000 pesos sa 10%. 100,000 pesos times 10%, that is equal to 10,000 pesos. 60,000 pesos times 10%, that is equal to 6,000 pesos. 120,000 pesos times 10%, that is equal to 12,000 pesos. All in all, 28,000 pesos. Next, allocation of remainder. 10,000 pesos minus 20,000 pesos minus 28,000 pesos, that is equal to negative 38,000 pesos. These negative 38,000 pesos shall be allocated to the partners based on their profit or loss ratio. For A, imumultiply natin yung negative 38,000 pesos sa 40%. For B, imumultiply natin yung negative 38,000 pesos sa 30%. And for C, imumultiply natin yung negative 38,000 pesos sa 30%. Negative 38,000 pesos times 40%, that is equal to negative 15,200. For B, negative 38,000 pesos times 30%, that is equal to 11,400 pesos. And last, for C, negative 38,000 pesos times 30%, that is equal to negative 11,400. We can now compute for the partners' respective shares. For A, 12,000 pesos plus 10,000 pesos minus 15,200 pesos. Ilan yan? 6,800 pesos. For B, 6,000 pesos minus 11,400 pesos. Ilan yan? Negative 5,400 pesos. And for C, 8,000 pesos plus 12,000 pesos minus 11,400 pesos. Ilan yan? 8,600 pesos for a total of 10,000 pesos. Next, Case 3 loss. The requirement is to compute for the partners' respective shares. But this time, the partnership incurs loss of 20,000 pesos. In this case, the amount being allocated is negative 20,000 pesos. Let's now do the allocation. First, salaries. Ang annual salary ni A ay 12,000 pesos at ang annual salary ni C ay 8,000 pesos. In total, 20,000 pesos. Next, bonus. In this case, bonus is not applicable. Why? Bonus is not applicable because the partnership incurs a loss of 20,000 pesos. Recall that a partner is not entitled to bonus if the partnership incurs a loss. Next, interest on capital. For A, imumultiply natin yung 100,000 pesos sa 10%. For B, imumultiply natin yung 60,000 pesos sa 10%. At para kay C, imumultiply natin yung 120,000 pesos sa 10%. 100,000 pesos times 10%, that is equal to 10,000 pesos. 60,000 pesos times 10%, that is equal to 6,000 pesos. And last, 120,000 pesos times 10%, that is equal to 12,000 pesos. All in all, 28,000 pesos. Next, allocation of remainder. Negative 20,000 pesos minus 20,000 pesos minus 28,000 pesos, that is equal to negative 68,000 pesos. This negative 68,000 pesos shall be allocated to the partners based on their profit or loss ratio. Ang profit or loss ratio ni A ay 40%, ang profit or loss ratio ni B ay 30%, at ang profit or loss ratio ni C ay 30%. Recall that the profit or loss ratio is 40 to 30 to 30. Para makompute yung kay A, negative 68,000 pesos times 40%. For B, negative 68,000 pesos times 30%. For C, negative 68,000 pesos times 30%. Negative 68,000 pesos times 40%, that is equal to negative 27,200. Negative 68,000 pesos times 30%, that is equal to 20 or negative 20,400 pesos. For C, negative 68,000 pesos times 30%, that is equal to negative 20,400 pesos. All in all, of course, negative 68,000 pesos. Now, we can compute for the respective shares of the partners. For A, 12,000 pesos plus 10,000 pesos minus 27,200, that is equal to negative 5,200. For B, 6,000 pesos minus 20,400, ilan yan? Negative 14,400. And for C, 8,000 pesos plus 12,000 pesos minus 20,400 pesos, ilan yan? Negative 400 pesos. Of course, all in all, that is equal to negative 20,000 pesos. Next, problem number 2, interest on weighted average capital. A and B's partnership agreement stipulates the following. Monthly salary of 4,000 pesos to A, 20% bonus to A based on profit after deductions for salary and bonus, but before deduction for interest. 12% interest on B's weighted average capital balance. B initially contributed 30,000 pesos. During the period, B contributed additional 10,000 pesos on July 1 and 6,000 pesos on November 30, and withdrew 4,000 pesos on October 1. Balance is shared equally. Case 1, full year. The partnership earned profit of 90,000 pesos before salaries, bonus, and interest on capital for the year ended December 31, 20x1. Requirement: provide the journal entry to close the income summary account to the partners' respective capital accounts. Case 2, partial year. The partnership earned profit of 90,000 pesos before salaries, bonus, and interest on capital for the 8 months ended December 31, 20x1. Requirement: provide the journal entry to close the income summary to the partners' respective capital accounts. Let's start with Case 1, full year. Ang requirement, provide the journal entry to close the income summary account to the partners' respective capital accounts. Ang profit dito ay 90,000 pesos. Yan yung profit before salaries, bonus, and interest on capital. And take note, yung 90,000 pesos na profit before salaries, bonus, and interest on capital ay for the entire year ng 20x1. Of course, before tayo makapag-provide ng journal entry, kailangan muna nating i-compute yung respective shares ng partners. The amount being allocated is 90,000 pesos. Let's now do the allocation. Unahin natin yung salaries. Dito sa problem, merong monthly salary na 4,000 para kay A. That means kailangan pa nating i-multiply yan sa 12 months to get the annual salary. 4,000 pesos times 12 months, that is equal to 48,000 pesos. Next, bonus. Bonus is applicable in this case because there is a sufficient profit. There is a 20% bonus to A based on profit after deductions for salary and bonus, but before deduction for interest. Para ma-compute yung 20% bonus to A, kailangan muna nating i-compute yung profit after salary. 90,000 pesos minus 48,000 pesos. Ilan yan? 42,000 pesos. Yung 42,000 pesos na yan yung profit after salary. This time, pwede na nating ma-compute yung bonus. Bonus is equal to 42,000 pesos minus the quantity 42,000 pesos divided by 120%. Saan galing yung 120%? Galing yan sa bonus rate na 20%. Ang kailangan mo lang gawin, i-add mo yung 100% sa bonus rate na 20%. That's why dinivide natin dito yung 120%. 42,000 pesos minus the quantity 42,000 pesos divided by 120%. Ilan yan? 7,000 pesos. And that 7,000 pesos is the bonus to A. Next, interest on weighted average capital. To compute the interest on weighted average capital, gagawa tayo ng columns. Isang column for balances, isang column for months outstanding over total months in a year, at isang column for weighted average. Of course, ilalagay natin yung beginning balance. On July 1, merong additional investment. On October 1, may withdrawal. On November 30, merong additional investment. The beginning balance is 30,000 pesos. This is the initial contribution of B. Now, this 30,000 pesos shall be multiplied by 12 over 12. Bakit 12 over 12? Kasi ang months outstanding from January 1 to December 31 ay 12. And of course, yung total months in a year is 12. 30,000 pesos times 12 over 12, that is equal to 30,000 pesos. Instead na gamitin yung 12 over 12, pwede rin namang 1. 30,000 pesos times 1, that is equal to 30,000 pesos. On July 1, there is an additional investment of 10,000 pesos. Ang months outstanding from July 1 to December 31 ay 6 months. That's why imumultiply natin yung 10,000 pesos sa 6 over 12. 10,000 pesos times 6 over 12, that is equal to 5,000 pesos. On October 1, may withdrawal na 4,000 pesos. Ang months outstanding from October 1 to December 31 ay 3 months. That's why kailangan nating i-multiply yung negative 4,000 pesos sa 3 over 12. 4,000 pesos or negative 4,000 pesos times 3 over 12, that is equal to negative 1,000 pesos. On November 30, meron ulit additional investment na 6,000 pesos. Ang months outstanding from November 30 to December 31 ay 1 month. Therefore, kailangan nating i-multiply yung 6,000 pesos sa 1 over 12. 6,000 pesos times 1 over 12, that is equal to 500. After that, we can already compute for the weighted average capital balance. 30,000 pesos plus 5,000 pesos minus 1,000 pesos plus 500. Ilan yan? 34,500. Of course, it doesn't end here. Kailangan pa nating i-multiply yan sa 12% to get the interest on weighted average capital balance. 34,500 times 12%, that is equal to 4,140. Ilalagay na natin yung 4,140 for B. Next, allocation of remaining profit. Ang remaining profit ay 30,860. Paano yan na-compute? 90,000 pesos minus 48,000 pesos minus 7,000 pesos minus 4,140 pesos. Sinabi dito sa problem na balance is shared equally. That means yung 50% ng 30,860 mapupunta kay A at yung 50% ng 30,860 ay mapupunta kay B. 30,860 times 50%, of course, that is equal to 15,430. Same amount will go to both A and B. 48,000 pesos plus 7,000 pesos plus 15,430 pesos. Ilan yan? 70,430 pesos. 4,140 pesos plus 15,430 pesos. Ilan yan? 19,570. Of course, in total, 90,000 pesos. After computing the respective shares of the partners, we can now provide the journal entry to close the income summary account to the partners' respective capital accounts. Of course, yung journal entry natin dito ay year-end entry. Debit income summary, 90,000 pesos. Credit A capital, 70,430 pesos. And credit B capital, 19,570 pesos. Next, case 2 partial year. Provide the journal entry to close the income summary to the partners' respective capital accounts. Still same profit, 90,000 pesos before salaries, bonus, and interest on capital. Yun nga lang, yung 90,000 pesos na profit dito is for the 8 months ended December 31, 20x1. Unlike dun sa case 1, na yung 90,000 pesos na profit before salaries, bonus, and interest on capital is for the entire year ng 20x1. The amount being allocated is 90,000 pesos. Let's now do the allocation. Let's start with salaries. Ang monthly salary ay 4,000 pesos. We will not multiply this by 12 months but rather 8 months only. 4,000 pesos times 8 months, ilan yan? 32,000 pesos. Next, bonus. A is entitled to bonus because there is a sufficient profit. 90,000 pesos minus 32,000 pesos, ilan yan? 58,000 pesos. Yan yung profit after salary. Bonus is equal to 58,000 pesos minus the quantity 58,000 pesos divided by 120%. Ilan yan? 58,000 pesos minus the quantity 58,000 pesos divided by 120%. Ilan yan? 9,667. Ilalagay na natin yung 9,667 na bonus kay A. Next, interest on weighted average capital. Same process, prepare 3 columns for balances, months outstanding over total months in a year, and weighted average. Of course, there is a beginning balance on May 1, 20x1. There is an additional investment on July 1. There is a withdrawal on October 1. And there is an additional investment on November 30. Ang beginning balance ay 30,000 pesos. Imumultiply natin yan sa 8 over 12. This time, since partial year, hindi 12 over 12, but rather 8 over 12. Kasi ang months outstanding from May 1, 20x1 to December 31, 20x1 ay 8 months. 30,000 pesos times 8 over 12, ilan yan? 20,000 pesos. Next, July 1 additional investment is 10,000 pesos. Imumultiply natin yung 10,000 pesos sa 6 over 12. 10,000 pesos times 6 over 12, that is equal to 5,000 pesos. Ginamit natin yung 6 over 12 kasi merong months outstanding na 6 months from July 1 to December 31. Next, October 1 withdrawal is 4,000 pesos. Imumultiply natin yung negative 4,000 pesos sa 3 over 12. There are 3 months outstanding from October 1 to December 31. Negative 4,000 pesos times 3 over 12, that is equal to negative 1,000 pesos. Next, the additional investment on November 30 is 6,000 pesos. Imumultiply natin yan sa 1 over 12 because there is 1 month outstanding from November 30 to December 31. 6,000 pesos times 1 over 12, ilan yan? 500 pesos. We can now compute for the weighted average capital balance. 20,000 pesos plus 5,000 pesos minus 1,000 pesos plus 500 pesos. Ilan yan? 24,500 pesos. After that, imumultiply natin yung weighted average capital balance sa 12% to get the interest on weighted average capital balance of 2,940. 24,500 pesos times 12%, that is equal to 2,940. Ilalagay na natin yung 2,940. Next, allocation of remaining profit. Ang remaining profit ay 45,393 pesos. Paano yan na-compute? 90,000 pesos minus 32,000 pesos minus 9,667 pesos minus 2,940. Ang sabi sa problem, balance is shared equally. Therefore, yung 45,393 pesos, paghahatian yan ni A at B. 50% of 45,393 will go to A, and 50% of 45,393 will go to B. Ang 50% ng 45,393 ay 22,696.50. At this point, we can now compute the respective shares of the partners. For A, 32,000 pesos plus 9,667 plus 22,696.50. That is equal to 64,363.50. For B, 2,940 plus 22,696.50. Ilan yan? 25,636.50 for a total of 90,000 pesos. Since alam na natin yung respective shares ng partners, we can now provide the journal entry. We can now provide the journal entry to close the income summary to the partners' respective capital accounts. Debit income summary, 90,000 pesos. Credit A capital, 64,363.50. And credit B capital, 25,636.50.